Hai and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Tengku Nur Ilham binti Tengku Murad, matric number 2020950861. So, and the other group members, which is Nur Syairah binti Ahmad Fazli, Siti Aisyah binti Azman, and Nur Fatih Antira binti Muhammad Anwar. So, insyaAllah today, our group will present about the concept of Sukuk Prihatin in Malaysia. Before that, we will look at the objective of our study. The first is explain the definition and the concept of Sukuk. Second, to investigate the product of Sukuk Prihatin. And the third is to investigate the analysis of product performance and the product risk. Okay, so we go through to the introduction of Sukuk. So what is Sukuk? Sukuk are financial instruments similar to bond and also share that compliant with Islamic law. Alright, so it means Sukuk are securities that comply with the Islamic law and its investment principle, which prohibit the charging or paying of interest. Okay, the next point is Sukuk represent proportionate beneficial ownership in the underlying asset. Alright, the asset is then less to the client using ijarah or diminishing musyarakah, also to the client using trade-based Islamic mode of financing like salam, murabah, and in case the asset needs to be manufactured, the Islamic mode of istisna is used. Right. So the third point is the asset less or sold yet the return on the sukuk for the certificate holder. It means the return may be fixed or variable, but the key point is that it cannot be interest for lending money only. Okay, AAOIFI, an Islamic body for accounting, auditing, and the financial regulation, defines Sukuk as certificate of equal value representing and divide share in the ownership of tangible asset, uses fraud and service, or in the ownership of the asset of particular project or special investment activity. So, we can conclude is Sukuk is an Islamic bond and is based on the concept of securitization. It is an Islamic alternative for asset monetization, syndicate project financing, financing through asset-backed securitization, and public financing. Okay, we move to the next slide, which is the type of Sukuk. So basically, there are 7 types of Sukuk. Right. So the first is Sukuk Murabaha. Refer to as Sukuk Murabaha means refer to a sale and purchase contract transaction for financing asset, whereby the cost and profit matching are made known and agreed by all parties involved. The settlement for the purchase can be either on a different lump sum or on an installment basis, which will be specified in the agreement. Secondly is Sukuk Ijarah. Sukuk Ijarah refers to a manfaat, type of contract whereby a lessor or a owner lease out an asset or equipment to its client at an agreed rental fee and predetermined lease period upon the akad or contract. The ownership of the leased equipment remains in the hand of the lessor. The thirdly is Sukuk Musyarakah. Sukuk Musyarakah refers to a partnership arrangement between two parties or more to finance a business venture, whereby all parties contribute capital either in the form of cash or in kind for the purpose of financing the business venture. Any profit derived from the venture will be distributed based on a pre-agreed profit sharing ratio, but a loss will be shared on the basis of equity participation. Right. So the fourth of Sukuk is Sukuk Mudarabah. Okay, it is referred to a contract made between two parties to finance a business venture. The parties are Rabbul Mal, or investor who solely provide the capital, and a mudarib, or an entrepreneur who solely manage the project. If the venture is profitable, the profit will be distributed based on a pre-agreed ratio. In the event of a business loss, the loss shall be borne solely by the provider of the capital. Alright, so the next is Sukuk by Bitaman Ajil or BBA. It is referred to a sale and purchase contract transaction for financing asset on a deferred and an installment basis with a pre-agreed payment period. The sale price will include a profit margin. Alright, so we go to the next Sukuk, which is the Sukuk Istisna. Sukuk Istisna refer to a purchase contract of an asset whereby a buyer will place an order to purchase the asset, which will be delivered in the future. In other words, the buyer will require a seller or a contractor to deliver or construct the asset that will be complete in the future according to the specification given in the sale and purchase contract. Both parties of the contract will decide on a sale and purchase price as they wish, and the settlement can be delayed or arranged based on the schedule of the works complete. And the last one is Sukuk, is Salam Sukuk. Okay, Salam Sukuk is a salam contract issued when payment is made in cash at the point of contract, but the delivery of the asset purchase is deferred to a predetermined date. Okay, the next slide is about the difference between Sukuk and bond. Okay, the first is about ownership. For bond are debt obligation, and but Sukuk ownership of asset. Second is criteria for investment. Bond can be used to finance any asset, project, business, or joint venture that comply with local law, but the asset on which Sukuk are based need to be compliant with Sharia law. Okay, the third is issue price. Face value of the bond is based credit worthiness of the issue, but the fair value of Sukuk is based on the market value of the underlying asset. Alright, so the last one is risk and reward. Bondholder receive interest for the life of the bond. The principal is also guaranteed and will be retained on the maturity date of the bond, but Sukuk holder receive a predetermined share of profit or rental from the asset. They also accept a share of the loss. So I think that's all from me. Next, I will pass the presentation to Nur Shaira to present the second objective, which is to investigate the product of Sukuk Prihatin. So thank you.
Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Shaira binti Ahmad Fazli. My matrix number is 2020984673. I will continue the presentation and I will talk about the Sukuk Prihatin product, and I will touch about the issues in Sukuk Prihatin, which is the overview, the objective, and the key benefits of the Sukuk Prihatin. Alright, we go to the first slide, which is the overview. We see that the Sukuk Prihatin is a sukuk issued by the government of the Malaysia on 22 September 2020, which is offered to both retail and corporate investors. And the second is the objective, which is to rally fellow Malaysians in the government's effort to rebuild the nation post-COVID-19 pandemic crisis. And also the third is the key benefits from the Sukuk Prihatin, which is the direct obligation of the government as the issuer. Second is the investors will receive the tax exemption, and the third one, it is of course the Sharia compliant investment. Alright. Actually, a year ago, the government actually wanted to try something new, something different, when the government brought a new approach to security issuance in Malaysia during the pandemic. And actually, we were under a lockdown on that time. Okay, and the government has announced the National Economic Recovery Plan through Penjana to rebuild the economy. And it is one of the objectives of the government through this plan. And one of the initiatives taken under the Penjana program to revive the economy is with the Sukuk Prihatin. Okay. Actually, the Sukuk Prihatin is the first digital sukuk in Malaysia, and it is something new, something excited to us to hear that it is amazing. It is amazing, right? So we can say that the funds that collected on the Sukuk Prihatin is actually will be channeled to the COVID-19 fund initiatives such as enhancing the rural schools and supporting research and expenses that related to the infectious diseases and supporting SMEs business, right? Okay, so it showed us that it was a common cause for everyone to invest in, particularly to recovery post-pandemic, right? Okay, we go into the next slide, which is the terms and the conditions of the Sukuk Prihatin. Okay, the government has raised 500 million in nominal value to the issuance, and the ministers of the finance announced that the Sukuk Prihatin is a Sharia compliant instrument based on the commodity murabahah via tawarruk. And the Sukuk Prihatin is just not only help to those who affected by COVID-19, but the investors also will receive the 2% profit per annum over 2 years, which will be paid quarterly from the issue date. And also the subscription can be made via JomPay and RedNow through the online platforms, through the website of 27 banking in Malaysia institution. So we can see that the government have come up with a good idea, with the important key, which is the ease of application, because we can see that it is very easy, because we already have a very established digital banking platform across all the banking institution in Malaysia, and also the investors will get a tax exemption from the government. Actually, the government has successfully did their work, because on that time actually we are facing with a big challenge, with the things that we cannot go out from the house and no normal operating hours, right? And the government eventually did a very easy way for us through the application. And the process of the Sukuk Prihatin is very simple, is very easy, and it is very palatable to everyone that who want to invest in Sukuk Prihatin. And also the investors also need to know that the process is simple, and the digital application platform make us easy to get the information, alright, which is the quickly for us without go out the house, without go to the multiple documentation, and we don't have to wait for bidding, right? And the other awesome things in Sukuk Prihatin is the government gives us a flexible choices, where it is quite interesting for investors, whether they want to invest their money and get return, or they want a part of their money in a donation. They want a part of their money as a donation in the future. So it shows us that it is not a normal sukuk structure. There was another added sukuk structure which allowing someone to make a choice. So I think it is the best way for investors to invest their money in the Sukuk Prihatin. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Siti Asha binti Azman, metric number 2020987711. So, for the next slide, I will present about the analysis of performance in Sukuk Prihatin. First is the minimum per subscription is 500 and a multiple of 100 ringgit. So in this Sukuk Prihatin, they already state that the minimum of first subscription is 500 ringgit and the multiple is 100 ringgit. So what if someone wants to subscribe with another amount? So let's look at for the example. A is interested in subscribing for 610 ringgit. So because the required amount in multiples is already set, so he can only subscribe by 600 ringgit. But if he continue by 600 ringgit and 10, the 10 ringgit will be refunded to his account for not meeting the multiple amount requirement. For the second performance of Sukuk Prihatin is the interest will be available for 2%, which is per annum of 2 years. So is it worth it if the return can be as much as 2%? When compared to the fixed deposit rate of return offered by bank at present, the rate of return of this sukuk is very competitive. And this low rate of return is due to the current situation where the OPR rate is low, which is at 1.75%. And this low interest rate situation is not only happening in Malaysia, but it's happened around the world. So for the next performance, which is interest will be credited to the investor's account on a quarterly basis for those periods. So how to calculate the profit payments? So in this Sukuk Prihatin, they already give a formula to us how to calculate profit payment. So let's look at the formula, which is profit payments rate equal by profit rate, which is PR, times nominal value, which is NV, and times 1 divided by payment frequency times actual divided by actual. So for the assumption, PR give 2.0% a year and a nominal value give 1,000 ringgit. So the calculation for the payment of profits can be explained as follows. So 2.0% times 1,000 ringgit times 365 days divided by 365 days equal to 20 ringgit. So since profits are paid quarterly, the profit payout for each payment period is 20 ringgit times 1 divided by 4 times 60 days divided by 60 days, which is equal by 5 ringgit. So the profit rate will be paid to the investor on a quarterly basis until the maturity date of the concerned quarter. For the example, if the issue date of the quarter is 22 September 2020 and the first payment is on 22 December 2020. So for the next performance is investors can choose to donate their full benefits to the COVID-19 fund and will be given tax relief depending on the size of the donation. So the sukuk holder will obtain tax for the purpose of filling the tax of Sukuk Prihatin holder for the year of assessment in which the redemption of the Sukuk Prihatin is made. And for those who want to waive part or all of the principal amount of investment, this amount can be used for tax deduction purpose. So the investment profit rate set aside by customer will be put in a government trust account or donated to the government as a fund. So for the example, Encik Kasim invests 10,000 ringgit and he wants to set aside 3,000 ringgit. Then this 3,000 ringgit can be used for tax deduction purpose. So Encik Kasim will get 7,000 ringgit of the principal amount after the Sukuk Prihatin matures. and the remaining 3,000 ringgit was put into the trust account, which is for the donation.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Prihatin Atira binti Mama Anwar. My matrix number is 2020987557. So I will continue this presentation about analysis of risk Sukuk. As we know, Sukuk is an investment and every unit investment definitely involves risk. The same goes for Sukuk. So let's see about the risk of Sukuk. The first one in market risk, which is about rate of return risk. Fixed rate Sukuk are exposed to this risk is the same way as fixed rate bonds are exposed to interest rate risk. There are many dimensions of reinvestment risk and opportunity investment cost at new rates, especially if the asset is not liquid, as in the case of Sukuk cannot trade zero coupons. For example, markup is a defining feature of the Murabahah contract, which is the most popular Islamic finance instrument on the asset portion of the balance sheets. Every contract benchmark with LIBOR may change in the future, and maybe the LIBOR rates will rise and that the issuer for the asset maybe will not have made as much profit as future market, but depending on the situation and time. However, on the asset side, the repricing of Murabahah contract is not possible, as we know that cannot be traded in Islamic financial. The underlying asset of a Sukuk certificate carries a lot of risk, especially the risk of losing an asset. But Islamic finance has Sharia compliant provisions for reduce the risk of asset loss. Alright, so the second one is credit and counterparty risk. Credit risk refers to the probability of an asset or loan cannot be recovered due to default or delay in settlements. In new markets, some counterparties have less sophisticated risk in market management. Even so, that risk scheduling at a higher level does not exist because of the prohibition of interest. So the third one is default risk. Each prospectus has provisions for termination of the certificate in the event of default by the debtor. If the bond fails to pay rent on the Ijarah agreement, forming the coupon payment, the certificate holder may cancel the contract and forcing the responsible pay to repurchase the assets. Furthermore, the certificate's holder can take legal action or force the obligor to enter into debt rescheduling proceedings if the insurers fails to repay the principal amount. So the fourth one is coupon payment risk. The obligor may fail to pay the required coupons on time. So any delayed coupon will be subject to a specified payment amount that will be accumulate with the SPV. However, the Sharia board recommends that the funds raised be used as a charitable donation. So the next one is asset redemption risk. The originator has to repurchase the underlying asset from the certificate's holder. The principal amount paid may not be the same as the Sukuk insurance amount, and as a result, there is the risk that the assets may not be fully redeemed. So the next risk about Sharia compliant risk. Okay, so Sharia compliant risk refers to the loss of asset value as a result of violates the publisher's term and condition with respect to comply with Sharia. So there are conditions that define events that will render a sukuk deed void due to Sharia non-compliance. So, for example, if the sukuk is based on a combination of ijarah and istisna assets, ijarah must always be more than an exception in the pool. If there is no need, the sukuk will dissolve. The issue then becomes the issue of competitiveness and survival in the market as Sharia compliant in its own right asset class. So the last one is liquidity risk. On the issue of liquidity, sukuk management is an issue relates to liquidity management in Islamic finance. Okay, so in this case, it will be exposed to liquidity risk because there are currently no well-structured and sufficiently liquid secondary in market. Okay, so sukuk certificates are medium to long-term maturity, as is the case at the moment. Most certificates tend to be held until maturity. So in this research, we discuss and analyze several issues relate to sukuk and sukuk prihatin. There is performance analysis of sukuk and analysis of risk. We can know the difference between sukuk, prihatin and bond. Okay, so sukuk is expected to encourage many Muslims around the world to participate in financial markets and therefore will plays an important role in developing and deepening this market, in particular in developing countries. There are other benefits of sukuk to economics and financial markets, such as increased discipline and increased financial stability. Alright, so in this study, we made an effort to identify the risks underlying sukuk and suggest some possible methods to decreasing some risks. Alright, indeed, the subject is an peer one and offers rich potential for further research. So we can conclude that sukuk prihatin is a sukuk based on Islamic compliance. Okay, so that's all from our group. We hope that our presentation can increase more knowledge for us. Thank you.